Hey everyone, and welcome to Mediocre Gamers, where we discuss all things gaming. I'm Caleb.
I'm RJ.
I'm Crimson.
And due to the upcoming holidays, we might be a bit behind our recording and uploading schedule, so we apologize for any late episode or episodes as they may be. But we do have some great stuff to discuss this week. And we actually have a follow-up on the microtransactions show that we did last week. But first, we did want to let everyone know that we do have a page on Reddit now. It is reddit.r/mgcast. So if anybody wants to jump over there, we've got some information. We'll be updating it as often as we can during the holidays, but we'll try to keep up on that. You guys can comment and talk to us on there as well. But what have we been playing this week? Well, I messed around a little bit with Warframe, which a bunch of my friends had been telling me about before, and it was a fairly big download, so I wasn't really keen on looking at it. But they had a huge update about a month or two ago, and it just exploded. What was kind of a cult following has just exploded into a massive following. Tons of people are playing it now from the looks of it, and I had to get in on it. Some of the reviews for this new update were saying that it gives full-blown sequels a run for their money. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So it is a free-to-play, fully co-op game. And I haven't got to dive too far into it other than like the tutorial mission and kind of screwed around in the first official mission. It's really cool. Graphics are great. Gameplay is really cool. It's almost a like Mass Effect meets Destiny type feel. Like it's a third-person shooter, but also with a heavy emphasis on melee combat. And you can stealth kill with actual animations. So it's really fleshed out with the animations and the graphics quality and just combat in general. Weapons all feel drastically different. So based on your playstyle, based on really kind of what you want to do in the team, it can be done. There are 3 classes. I chose just the like regular dude. I can't remember what they're called, but there's 3 of them. There's one that's like just the all-around beat face guy. Then there's one that is like kind of a mix between spellcaster and normal beat face. Like they control things through magnetism, so you get to be fucking Magneto as a cyber ninja and can like pull people to you. You can pull enemies to each other and group them up for AoE attacks. And then there's a full-blown spellcaster that is just apparently nonsense, and I can't wait to mess around with them. But it's really cool. I think it's up to 4-player co-op. The only microtransactions that I really saw were like for skins and armor and weapons and stuff like that you don't actually need. You can unlock them and upgrade your own stuff as you progress through. It's mostly cosmetic stuff. Most of them were kind of expensive, like $5 per skin for like a weapon, but it didn't seem like it was mandatory or really necessary, so that kind of helped. But I got to try out a couple of different weapons. They all felt really good, very satisfying to use, and it just seemed like an overall pretty good game, especially for a free-to-play. So if any of you listeners are playing it, let us know. We can jump in and kind of experience that and talk about that. I also played some Homefront Revolution, been trying to keep up with that a little bit. It's still fun. It's still great. Co-op is incredible. It has a loot box system in the game, but it's only with in-game money, so it basically just makes your unlocks randomized, but also not fully necessary to enjoy the game. You just upgrade them as you go.
That seems pretty interesting. I know it's on the PlayStation 4. I might actually give it a try on there just to try out that super expensive keyboard and mouse controller that I got.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. You also talked to me about Homefront Revolution, so I've got that downloading on my end. So hopefully I'll be jumping in with that with you pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun. And it's a cheap enough game, so you get a free-to-play game and a fairly cheap game, especially on a sale, that you can look at. So it's, yeah, lot of good stuff to be playing during the holiday season, it looks like. RJ, what have you been playing?
Well, I've actually been drawn back into some StarCraft 2 recently. They had the big announcement of going to the free-to-play model that we talked about a couple episodes ago, and we have a new co-op commander. And I had I played several games where I had a Han and Horner as a teammate, and they just looked really cool. So what this new commander is, it is Mira Han and Matthew Horner, which there's a story between these two characters in the lore that is really cool, and they are a husband and wife team, whether Horner likes it or not. But that's beside the point. But their gameplay style is really, really interesting. They feel very much like pirates. And what Mira does, you build these assault galleons instead of barracks, and it's a flying unit, and it can shoot things, and it can fly around the map. But it also builds units. It can build Reapers. It can build Widow Mines. Hellions and Hellbats, which is pretty cool. So wherever you go on the map, you build and take your production facilities with you, and that's pretty cool. And then on the other half of the duo is Horner. He starts with a starport in your base, a specialized starport, and you can build elite Vikings, elite Wraiths, a special battle cruiser, and there is a fourth one that I don't remember. A Raven. It was a Raven. You can call down a Raven. And these are elite units, very similar to the Nova and her gameplay. So you kind of get a mix of this pirate on the boots on the ground feel with Mira, with some elite Nova-esque units offered from Matthew Horner. And you also have a couple really cool abilities that you can unlock from the top bar. He calls in an armada that just decimates a huge area. It's pretty cool, but they've got a very piratey feel to them. And I only played one game as them, and they're pretty cool. Oh, and one of their other special abilities is when your units die, they drop behind salvage pieces, and you can pick up those salvage pieces, and they'll give you some minerals back. So they really have this scavenger feel to them, which is really, really cool.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, and close the loop.
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. So yeah, that's the new unit, or the new co-op commanders, Han and Horner. And then I just played around some of my other normal co-op commanders, and I've noticed a few gameplay changes, mainly in the form of research times with some of the specialized technology for each of the commanders. I'm going to use Phoenix as the prime example because I think most of these other changes are akin to that. So with Phoenix, at your special building, you can research the AI personalities. They used to cost maybe 150 minerals and like 100 gas or something. Those have been drastically reduced to either 50 and 50 or 100 minerals and 50 gas. So that makes these choosing these technologies to research throughout your game, that makes it a lot more feasible to pick multiple of them and have it impact your gameplay. Whereas before, when they were more expensive, I feel like you were really, really limited in what you could do, especially on harder difficulties, where you had to crank out units as fast as you can. So they've made that individual tech research time lower for a lot of commanders across the map. So I think that's a really good universal change that's going to open up a lot of different gameplay experiences. So yeah. It's an exciting time to play StarCraft 2. It's now free to play. So if you were ever thinking of picking it up, I would suggest go out there and give it a whirl. So that's what I've been playing this week. Crimson, what about you?
Well, no surprise, I've been playing Destiny, of course. Just tons of Destiny 2. It is starting to get a little grindy. I'm definitely excited for this new expansion pack, just to kind of shake some things up. And we'll get more into that later. I will definitely go over some interesting items that we've got to see a little bit of for the expansion. The other one I haven't been playing, but I've been watching somebody else play this. If you've ever watched Game Theory on YouTube, Matt Pack, he also has a Game Theory Live channel. And he's been playing this game called Doki Doki Literary Club. And a lot of people have been suggesting that he play this. So he started playing it. I give it a watch. I'm like, okay, well, I find him entertaining, so I'm going to watch him. And it's the type of game, it's a graphic novel style game. So it's the type of game where you could literally watch it and still get the exact same feel of playing it, because it's pretty much playing a graphic novel. This shit is fucked up. Like, holy hell. And not messed up like, oh, tentacle monsters and girls type messed up. We're talking like psychological, depression, some suicide in there. I mean, this is not for the faint at heart. It is messed up and it is trippy as hell. What I really like about this game is the fact that it makes you feel. Go ahead.
That's really interesting. I think you were kind of about to get into it, but would you categorize this as like a psychological? I don't want to say thriller, but just a game that speaks to you on a different level from what you've described.
Yeah, I mean, it does definitely have a lot of psychological twings to it. Like, the main character's kind of an asshole. And, like, you know, when someone comes out, you know, and tells them that, you know, they're a very depressed individual and that they're having trouble even getting up in the morning. And he's like, well, don't be stupid. And it just triggers every little thing in your body. Like, no, what the hell is wrong with you? That's not how you... And I think the creator did that on purpose to kind of highlight the fact that some people just don't get depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, stuff like that. Obsession, a lot of obsession in this game. And it's so unique that a game would even touch on these concepts in general. It's really so taboo. Go ahead, Caleb.
So, it seems like it's it's branded on Steam as a psychological horror, but I feel like it's a little bit more than that. It's almost like it's satirical in its portrayal. Like, I haven't got to see it, but from what I've heard from you and some screenshots and videos that I've seen, it seems like it really is showing, hey, this is the way that you don't deal with mental illness, but this is also what mental illness can do.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of like that with that. Hey, you know, I think it gets the point across because it does it in the opposite of how you would want to do it. And it makes you frustrated and makes you think about it. Where if it was just a basic, you know, oh, well, you know, do the right thing, you're not going to get the same level of feels as when your character does the thing that you're like, what are you doing? No!
And you don't have a choice, right? Didn't you say that you actually don't have to make any of these decisions of what you say to these people?
Correct. Like, it does give you the choices like a normal graphic novel does, but all roads lead back to the same,
Oh my god.
storyline.
So when you actually choose an answer, it gives you a terrible response to them.
Yeah, it changes, and the now I'm not going to go into too many spoilers, but there are times when, the game acts like it's taking over your computer. Like, you'll have a choice between these 3 people to go help over the weekend. And when you go to highlight one of the other 2 people, the game literally moves your mouse to the third person. Like, you move your mouse up, it moves your mouse down. You're like, no, I want to click on that person. Nope, you're going to click on this person. No, I want to click. And if you do it real fast, you can click on the other person, and then all of a sudden that person gets deleted from the game files until your only choice is that person. And it's super freaky. You're like, what the hell is going on?
That really reminds me of, like, Metal Gear Solid, like Psycho Mantis, where you couldn't beat him if you were playing in the first controller slot like everyone normally did, because he would anticipate all your moves and kill you. That you actually would have to plug in the other slot to be able to even do anything. And that in 2, the game would literally tell you that it was deleting your saved game because you were going the wrong direction or whatever, and then it would go to black screen and say game over, just to fuck with you. It really reminds me of that. And that is fascinating.
Yeah, this game has a lot of that, and a lot of things that make you go, what is going on? And I really do think of this game more as an art form than an actual game. Like, it's an art form of the mind versus an art form like, picture quality. But just the way this developer, and it's an indie developer, I think it's just this one person, and he put out the game for free on Steam, completely free. Just wonderful. Like, if you get a chance, I definitely suggest people play it. Obviously, if you're an adult, I would suggest playing it, and an adult who doesn't have specific triggers, dealing with like suicide and stuff like that, I would definitely say play it. I mean, that doesn't mean, oh well, this game can't be enjoyed by somebody who has, depression or anxiety or suicidal thoughts, but it definitely will trigger you. And that may be a good thing too. It may be something you need. Be like, what the fuck? You just want to strangle this game, but you're experiencing something that is so different that, I just want to be very clear. Take it easy. Take it slow. It is a game, and it is anime style. The game is meant to make you feel.
The only thing I wanted to say about the Doki Doki was that there is a huge disclaimer on it. If those types of things are triggering for you, that go at your own risk. That it is something that will trigger you. So if that is something that you do want to avoid, the game is a very interesting form of art and a very satirical, interesting foray into that medium. But it's not going to be worth it if it's going to fuck you up. So keep definitely that in mind. But if you can or feel up to playing that game and experiencing it, it seems like it is a very interesting game to look at.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Yeah, that definitely hits a lot of interesting topics. So I'm definitely willing to give that a whirl. And I also find that it's very interesting of your opinion that it feels like a different form of artwork, exploring the mind rather than just what's on paper and what you see on your screen. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's just nice to have something like that that's, different than graphics.
Agreed. Now, I believe that is a fantastic segue into our follow-up on microtransactions. RJ, I believe you've been diving kind of headfirst into this. What's some new developments that we've seen? I noticed that the Belgian and Dutch Gaming Commission have been investigating it and are looking to take it to court. That the EU is looking to ban loot box systems from gaming in their regions. Take us in.
Yeah, well, I'm going to share what happened to me specifically. Literally a day after we recorded the last episode, there was some local news on our KSPR channel where EA and Battlefront were kind of in trouble. I think under investigation was the technical term, with their loot boxes being a form of gambling, and that's pretty much what the announcer said. So really, it is a really big hot topic that's been coming up a lot. And in that that piece that you sent us earlier this week, the Belgian and Dutch gaming commissions are investigating loot boxes in video games, specifically EA and Battlefront 2. And generally, a quote that they had mentioned was, "The mixing of money and addiction is gambling." And that's not good when it's marketed towards children in this case. So I've only done a little bit of research, but in my opinion, this is a huge issue if you have gaming commissions that are starting to step in and look at this specific item. And it's even spread a little bit to the U.S. Also in the piece that you sent us, the Hawaii's House of Representative Chris Lee basically said that it was a Star Wars themed casino, and he was calling on other representatives to take a look at this issue. So video games and loot boxes and gambling. So that's kind of the takeaways that I took from that piece.
And it absolutely is gambling. I mean, it really is. I don't care if you're getting a monetary value for your money. You're getting the enjoyment of playing a game, and everything you want to enjoy is behind a loot box system. It's crap. And I know Blizzard's over there just going, "Please don't look at us. Please don't look at us. Ours is fine. Ours is fine. Please don't look at us." But it's not, because they still don't have a way to outrightly buy what I want to use. I have to go through a loot box system. Even in a game that we're playing, and we can all agree on this right now, we all play a game that has a massive loot box. Destiny 2. And you're thinking, well, I don't buy those bright loot boxes. No, I'm talking about just the stupid repetition vendors.
Yep. The regular Ingrams.
Yeah. It's, why can't I go to, say, Zavala, and instead of, getting 20 freaking strike tokens and getting a random item, there's plenty of room on that screen. How about he just puts the items there and they cost strike tokens, and I buy the item that I want and give them the strike tokens. I mean, yeah, I understand some weapons like, Nameless Midnight might cost 30 strike tokens instead of 20, but that's fine. If I want it, I will work for it.
And I think that just seems like, I don't know, every other MMO does this. WoW did it. Guild Wars 2 did it. Guild Wars 1 did it. You go and you do dungeons, you do events, you do all these things, and you get a currency that can then be spent on a vendor that then gives you items. But you get to choose what items you spend those tokens on. So I completely agree with this. I'm sick of fucking randomization and loot boxes. And even though you're not paying for it, you're paying for it with your time. And I get that they need the grind there because they don't have a lot of content in Destiny 2. But I would feel more rewarded and feel more invested and interested in playing more often if I didn't have to go grind public events for 6 days to get one item I want.
Yeah. I think I have a little bit of a different perspective there, but I think the way I want to frame my argument here is the way that Halo was sort of set up was they found the formula to have an awesome 5 minutes of fun, and they were able to replicate it. And that philosophy has really carried over into Destiny 2. And with these engrams, I think some of that thrill is in the chase, where you're trying to find a specific item, and this is kind of the same philosophy as Borderlands 2 or any of those other games where you get random weapons that you can use, because they're all still usable. Now, wanting a specific one, that gives you something to chase for. But in some of these shooter games, I don't think that, if I don't have this one specific gun, then my gameplay experience is completely ruined. Whereas there's other things.
Then you're not playing a hunter. Then you're not playing a fucking hunter.
Well, then maybe that is a game design flaw. I don't know.
It is. But that is part of the game design flaw, is that viability of certain classes, specifically in raids, in nightfalls, in strikes, in a lot of the higher end content, is locked behind one specific piece of gear, or one specific weapon, one specific, pants, for example, the Orpheus rig, which we'll talk about later. That's what I'm getting at, is that, yes, it's great to have a chase of one sort or another, but when viability is on the line, like with Borderlands, it's not that way. Every weapon is usable. Whether you like the weapon or not is a different story, but you're always viable. In Destiny, it's a little different. But go ahead.
Well, at least on the weapons side, because I feel like every gun is viable. Like I'm looking around, so yeah. But yeah,
a big example for me right now is the Iron Banner. So I've turned in probably, I don't know, hundreds of tokens, and I still haven't got the auto rifle, and I still haven't got a full set on one character of the armor. And the thing is, you kind of want the armor because it is, it's heavy armor, so it's really good for a lot of classes. On top of that, now, we'll segue later into more of this in the Destiny concept, but there will be doing things with Season 2 that will require you to have that armor. So I'll get more into that later, but it does fucking suck, the fact that I can't even get a full set of the Iron Banner on armor on one character, let alone the one of the guns I want. Now, I've gotten multiples of all the other guns, and maybe if they did it something like, well, you have a greater chance of getting something you haven't gotten before, we wouldn't have this feeling of waste. But unfortunately, I've gotten like 3 of the pulse rifles, and it's like, I don't need this anymore. But go on with the rest of the microtransaction stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're looking at for Destiny 2 there. But kind of bringing it back to the microtransaction in the sense of you're paying actual money for in-game content, specifically content that is crucial to progressing in the game, and we're right back to Battlefront 2 here. So I guess since with all these things that have been in the news recently, I just kind of had a general question to test the waters here. How do we feel about gaming commissions and or politicians getting involved? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I'm a socialist, so I'm all okay. I'm completely okay with regulations. I think people need regulations. I think that's just part of living in a society today. Whether it's state or federal, a lot of people go, well, if it's state, you could just move to the state you want. Well, not all of us can just move to wherever we want to live. Trust me. But, I don't have a problem with having regulations. I mean, look at what's going on with net neutrality. It's because, unfortunately, the country voted for a shitty president that we now have, a shitty person as the FCC and trying to take away net neutrality. And as we band together, we will, either stop this or bring it back to where it should be. Eventually, it will work itself out because that's what politics is about. Eventually the people run the government, not the government run the people, one way or another.
For me, I feel like this may actually be a good thing in a sense because EA with Battlefront 2 really shit the bed. I mean, like, the worst that they possibly could have done by turning it into actual gambling. And I think it's a good idea for there to be gaming commissions. Not necessarily every fucking politician jumping in and throwing in their 2 cents, because then you get people who have no idea what they're talking about trying to make regulations on something that, again, they don't know what they're talking about. But having an actual dedicated gaming commission that knows what they're doing, it knows what's involved, and actually knows the content that they're trying to regulate, I feel like that may be a good thing, especially with this sort of thing getting so out of hand. And I just, man, it feels like it's a terrible thing and a good thing at the same time, because loot boxes in general have become this kind of phenomenon that everybody's trying to use, and now they're becoming an abusive tactic from publishers like EA, where they can turn a game into a gambling money-making machine. And being able to curve that back around, I think that may be a good idea. So we may actually be seeing something good come out of this shitstorm.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I am of the opinion that this is something. I think this loot box and gambling problem, especially if it's been making it in the news overseas and with it popping up around the country, I definitely think that it's a signal to companies and gamers in general that's like, hey, this is not okay, and we need to bring it back, because I think the problem is bad enough that the politicians have to jump in. So some sort of regulation, curb back a company, or curb back the concept, or just force everybody to reevaluate the concept. Because as Crimson has said, it is legalized. It is gambling, not legalized gambling. It is straight up gambling. So, and
to an extent, underage gambling.
Yes, exactly. So,
and for me, what it comes down to is, look, do I trust governments? No. Do I trust corporations? Hell no. I trust a government more than I trust a corporation any day of the week. For anybody who knows me, I am very anti-corporation. I think corporations should not be treated as individuals. They should be treated as a business, and that the people running the corporation should be held accountable, not the corporation itself, because the corporation can't make decisions. Board of directors make decisions, and they should be held accountable for those decisions. I'm not a corporation person. I'm a unionist who I can't stand the way corporation greed has affected most things in our lives, even the stuff that we don't even think about. And yeah,
including gaming now. It's actually creeped into our escape.
Yeah, I mean,
and our hobbies. So I completely understand.
If we need the government to step in and regulate it, then that's fine. Now, I definitely trust the Belgian government more than I trust the American government right now. But
fair enough.
I mean, yeah, it just comes down to we need someone to step in and be like, hey, look, you need to have a moral compass. And right now, corporations don't have that.
Yep, I completely agree. So we're thinking we're thinking of the children and not getting them started down this path of gambling and addiction in the gaming world. Because I definitely agree. Like, to me, gaming is an escape. And when extra money and that concept have to come into it, then in the form of gambling, that's not good.
Yeah, and when that gambling machine also comes at a $60 price point that you bought into, it creates another bigger problem. The microtransaction problem is massive in scope, and now we're actually seeing it kind of get a little bit of clapback from the government, the local representatives, because it is now it is almost borderline a crime, and it may actually be just straight up a crime because of the fact that it is gambling targeted at kids. So that is, I'm glad that they're taking a look at it. I'm glad that somebody is finally stepping in and trying to curve back whether it is the concept, whether it is microtransactions as a whole, or whether it's just the corporations or companies that are actually abusing it. I'm very curious to see where this goes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So if this is a hot button, well, this is certainly a hot button issue. That's really just kind of developing. So definitely something we're going to keep an eye on. And if you haven't listened to our previous episode, I would highly suggest you do so. We do talk about kind of the history of microtransactions and some examples of how they are done well and how they are done bad, and specifically about loot boxes in general. So I will direct you to that. But moving forward, we've been playing a lot of Destiny 2 the past several weeks, so I think it would be kind of a
expansion.
Okay, there you go. We're going to talk about, spoilers, Destiny 2. So, Crimson, you're super excited about, what was that again?
The expansion.
All right, well, take it away.
The expansion looks awesome. Now, I'm sure I'm not going to be able to grab all the information here. Definitely suggest that you check out a couple YouTube videos that are talking about it. They've done some live streams that were very informative. The level cap is going to go up from 20 to 25.
Isn't it going to go up 25 levels? Is that right?
It's going to go up to 25.
Oh, up to 25. Okay, so we were doing... Okay.
And then your power level on your gear can go up to 25 plus the 5, so up to 330, which is going to be nice. Going to be one-shotting mofos in the vanilla world, no problem. Except for half that shit scales anyways. Tons of new storyline, with a lot of it based on past and future. The Vex are dealing with some time travel stuff, and it's going to be quite interesting to see this storyline go through. And then this will also create season 2 for the Iron Banner, season 2 for the faction wars, season 2 for the Bright Boxes. So a lot of different and new stuff there is going to be coming out in a couple weeks. They're introducing a crafting sort of mechanic. There will be a wall that has it looked like 12 to 16 points on it, and each point is a item you can craft. And what it will be is it will be like a little quest, like you do with the Mida tool. And so you'll take the quest and it'll say, go find these items, and they drop from different mobs, and you will get these items together, take them back to the wall, and then craft that weapon. So that'll be really interesting, really fun to deal with. But a couple other things, especially going into the season 2 for the faction wars and the Iron Banner, how they're going to do this is, so right now you turn in your tokens, you can get armor pieces. Well, those armor pieces are going to change, but not necessarily. How they're going to do it is like they do with the weapons, like the exotic weapons, where you have a skin that you can apply to that item. So for me, I have the full Dead Orbit armor set on my Titan. Well, now when I go turn into tokens, I will get like an ornament or a skin, and that will change the Dead Orbit armor into the Season 2 looking armor. This way, if you want the Season 1 armor, you can still get it. The difference is, so when Season 3 comes out, the Season 2 ornaments are not going to be there. It'll be Season 3 ornaments, but you'll still have the Season 1 or the base armor still available. So that'll be very interesting how they do that. I do not know if the ornament will change the class of the armor from like mobile to heavy to survivalist. I don't know that yet. They didn't go into that many details. But I think it is an interesting way to do it while allowing people to still get that very first set of armor. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's awesome. I like how they're going to be shaking up the crafting equipment, especially with what you just described. I think that'll be a nice twist. And I think extra ornaments and extra aesthetics is really good, just to kind of shake up the grind a bit. Like, instead of doing the same thing, grinding public events over and over again, you get to do something a little bit different. That same 5 minutes of fun, but just spun a little differently. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. That's cool.
Yeah, and we are getting the one exotic that we've been able to see so far is pretty much a Baneling grenade launcher. What it will do is it will shoot living bugs at people that kind of, they will move and attach themselves to people and blow up. So they're very, like, literally just like a Baneling.
Dude, what?
Yeah. So you're literally lobbing grenades at people that are bugs. And it does look like it does have a poison mechanic attached to it in some way, because you do see a green mist with the bugs. So this will be interesting to see how this grenade launcher comes out. And, maybe we'll actually get a grenade launcher that's usable.
Seems interesting.
Sweet. So that's a lot of the expansion stuff coming out. Just a preview for some of that. Are we getting, I think I remember someplace we're getting some extra, either a new raid or a different spin on the current raid. Have you guys heard anything about that?
How they're going to do the raids is they're calling them layers. So we'll still be going to the Leviathan, but the new raid will still be in the Leviathan. It'll be just a different main door. So when you go to the Leviathan, you will go either left, middle, or right door. And those will be the 3 different raids that you go through. Right now.
Max Ramus!
Yeah, pretty much. Different wings. And so that's how it's looking for right now. I figure in a couple expansions we'll get a fully new raid somewhere in a new area. But for now, they are doing them as layers attached to the current raid.
Very cool. Nice. Yeah, always something to change it up. Good stuff.
Well, I think it helps with resources too. They don't have to do artwork for a whole bunch of new stuff. It allows them to pull out more artwork that they have, already made versus having to create new. I mean, I know that's kind of a lazy way to do it, but might as well use it up.
It allows them to be lazy. Yeah, which, I mean, 6-hour campaign. We knew what we were getting into. But it is kind of cool that they are trying to expand on that Leviathan raid, because the aesthetic of the Leviathan, the story behind it, I'm very interested in. I think it's a very cool concept, so I'm not complaining about seeing more of it and getting more of that story out of that raid. But it does feel a little lazy.
Cool. Can I talk about some of my experiences recently? Yeah, okay. Well, I've definitely think that I've got a flow of how this game and the grind is supposed to go. You run around, you do your public events, you turn in the tokens, you get gear, you infuse old gear, or newer stuff that you find into the weapons that you want, and then you rinse and repeat. I don't think I've played a game that has a grinding mechanic sort like that. It may have been in different forms, but just kind of getting all the pieces to come together. As I, especially since I don't get to play it as often as you guys do, so that is all starting to click. Definitely this week, I've looked at several YouTube videos and read a couple articles and some catching up on some of the stuff that you guys have posted about specific builds. And I was also starting to look at some different weapon properties, kind of looking at YouTube videos of, hey, these are the best guns for PvP, and kind of looking at each of those. And I definitely think that it's really, really cool to explore some of these different options and see how a PvP meta can change with all the different choices of guns that people are bringing in there. Whether or not they're like short range hand cannons and swords to long ranged auto rifles, pulse rifles, what have you. So I've definitely been really diving into a lot of those mechanics very recently, and I got a short list of stuff that I want to try out. But I think one of the biggest things that I continuously get blown away about this game is the music. And I know that's kind of weird, but I noticed it on the opening theme. It is a very orchestral style composition. There's no auto tuning, there's no like dubstep heavy beat, like some of this more modern stuff that people are trying to call music. Like, to me, when I can hear a composition where I can hear the trombones, the French horns, the violins, the voices in the background, like this soundtrack for this game is really, really good. And I think that has put this game up a couple notches for me. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to the soundtrack by itself, I highly recommend that you do so. There's just something so unique about a game that can pull off an old orchestral style composition like that.
I actually have to agree. There's something that can always tie a game together and kind of give it that extra couple of bonus points, and that is a great soundtrack. And that this really fuels the nostalgia for me of, a lot of the gameplay feels very Halo-esque, and I played a shitload of Halo back in the day, of course. But the music also sounds like the old school orchestral Halo tunes. So I get you. It really feels great when you open up the game and you get that music on the title screen and just in the menus and even out in the world. But listening to the soundtracks on their own, in their own isolated form without the background noise of the firefights and everything else, it's magical. And Mass Effect 3 and to a lesser extent 2 did that for me as well, because they had heavy orchestral influences and a lot of their tracks were orchestra style, and it fits so well. It really does. And there's something just to really be said about that style of music, especially when paired with these type of themes.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, those have been my experiences recently. I'm almost getting to level 300 with my warlock, and I'm working on it with my secondary character, the hunter. And so yeah, but that's kind of been me on the grind train. Caleb, what have you? How have you been? What have you been doing?
I got to finally do the raid. I've done a little bit of each part. We never completed the dogs part. I ended up getting to skip that. but I did all 4 puzzles and just didn't complete the dogs. But every bit of it is actually fun to an extent. My real problem with the puzzles and the raid itself is that you have to have 6 people who are basically perfectionists. Because if one person fucks up, it's over. And then the party wipes, and when that happens over and over and over and over again for hours and hours on end, it gets really frustrating, and then everybody gets on tilt, and so everybody starts fucking up because they're worried about fucking up, and then it just kind of turns into a shit show. But the raid in general is fun when you've got the right team, and I get that's what they were going for. I don't like how they did it. I don't like the 1 revive per person thing. I think that sucks because it makes it completely unforgiving, but it's still very cool if you can get into it. But I am excited to mess around a little bit more with the raid this week and just kind of get better at it. It takes a lot of practice, so get in with a good group that can help you or that knows what they're doing, but is also patient enough to kind of help you like learn how to do the puzzles. But did finally kill Callus. That was fun. I'm not going to spoil anything because there's actually a huge reveal after you kill him that is fucking terrifying. So anybody who completes it, you're going to get a pretty interesting and cool surprise. But it's cool. It's rewarding enough. I got fucked over because there was a bug that said that the Leviathan milestone for the week that gives you the Luminous, it literally gets removed from your milestone track once you complete the raid, which really fucking sucked after all that work. But other than that, I've just kind of been going back to running on my hunter, and I finally got the Orpheus rig, so I'm viable, and that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, that it's not a very fun instance where you feel like you're not doing your part or not aiding the team because you don't have this one piece of gear. For hunters, it's the Orpheus rig. And to a lesser extent, the Raiden Flux, depending on which subclass that you're going on. I prefer Void because I like how it functions, but once you get that Orpheus rig, you become a god. Being able to basically, in the right situation, pop infinite supers, give your entire team infinite supers, have infinite grenades, infinite dodge, so on and so forth. But it's now that I have the rig, I don't feel like playing my hunter because I have the one item that I want. There doesn't feel like there's a grind anymore because I already grinded for 3 weeks and got every other item I could ever want. But had I been able to get that Orpheus rig earlier on, I could have felt more viable and done more content to get those items unlocked. So it's kind of been a toss-up. I've also been playing my Warlock a little bit, and she's been fun. Titan's been pretty fun. I'm pretty burned out on the game, just doing weeklies, just getting the Luminous Ingrams. That's basically the only thing that matters anymore. And trying to explore some of the other subclasses just to shake it up. But the grind has worn on me, and there's not enough content right now, so I am excited for the expansion, but I'm also skeptical. I hope it's going to deliver what we need for the game, because I do really enjoy the game. It really needs some more content. And, but yeah, I think all 3 of my characters are above 300, which has helped none at all, because power level doesn't matter. Despite what the people say when you try to get into a raid, power level actually doesn't matter. But other than that, it's been okay. I mean, it's a fun game. The gameplay's great. It just needs some more content. Crimson, how's your experiences been? I know you've been focusing pretty heavy on your Titan.
I've been playing a lot of my Titan, but I think my Titan is right where I need it to be. So now I've been really focusing on my other characters, and oh my gosh, it's nerve-wracking because I'm trying to get 2 sets for my hunter, 1 void, 1 arc. I'm trying to get an Orpheus rig, God help me. By the way, that fucking piece of gear needs to go on sale on Zool. They need to like manually push that in, because it's the only freaking thing that hunters need to be able to be viable. Other than that, it's kind of a crapshoot for void hunters.
It is. And that's the real problem. And to preface one other thing about the void hunters and hunters in general, I got so much shit from my other friends besides you and RJ. So much shit for playing a hunter. Despite being, top DPS and having the most revives and all that stuff, I got shit all the time for playing a hunter until I got the Orpheus rig. And now everybody, even you, Crimson, are like, no, you can't play anything but your hunter.
Yeah, it really, wow, it's really good. I think it's amazing. But unfortunately, it comes down to just grinding. And I swear, like, once you get the item, you get 12 of them. It drives me nuts in that aspect. And I'm in the same boat as you. I'm literally waiting for the reset, because I do seem to get more exotics out of those luminous engrams than I do normally. Because, man, I'm telling you, I'll go do public events. I'll spend an hour and a half. I'll get an exotic, and it'll be shit every time. But it seems like the ones out of the luminous seem to be super good. So that's just where I'm at, is working on sets and working on trying to get that Orpheus rig.
Yeah, and that's, I hate to say it, because we were actually supposed to talk about Destiny last week, but we ended up being a week behind, so the microtransaction discussion kind of took over, which was great because it was extremely relevant, but it did push our experiences with Destiny 2 back a week, and thus we've kind of gotten burned out by the grind. So our experiences have kind of changed, because last week we were actually having quite a bit of fun, but it just kind of it's plateaued, I think would be a good term for it. The game plateaus at a certain point, and then it just becomes, would you rather grind public events for 6 hours, or would you rather just not play very much and just jump on when the weekly reset happens and get your weekly milestones done?
Which I think heroic strikes may help that, but we don't know.
I hope so. If the heroic strikes get better loot, I think that would help a lot. I think that there should be a milestone for regular strikes. Do 5 strikes in a week, or fucking 10 strikes in a week to get a luminous. I don't care.
Well, there used to be the day for 3 strikes, but
yeah,
it's a one-time thing. It needs to be a weekly thing.
It should be a weekly thing, and even if they bumped it up, if they're like, oh, it's too easy to get 3 strikes in, do 5, do 10. I don't care. Just because strikes they're fun, they don't take very long, and they're fairly easy, but the rewards out of them are shit. So you don't really have an incentive to do them. And the Nightfall is fine, but it just, I would rather have something that I can, like, kind of work towards. I don't know if you have that same feeling, but, like, oh, I need to do 10 strikes this week. Okay, well, I can do a couple, and then a couple, and then a couple. Whereas, for right now, the weekly reset, I jump on all 3 characters and spend Tuesday going through all my weeklies, and I've got all my milestones done except for the raid.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, cool, I'm done.
Except for the Nightfall. Yeah. I usually don't do the Nightfall on all 3 characters. I save those.
Yeah. And usually I'll do it on, like, 1, and then I'll try to do it with you guys or whoever's on at the time. But it's a fun game. Don't want to discourage people from picking it up or playing it, especially playing it with us. But it's plateaued, so come help make it more fun by playing with us.
Yeah, playing with people definitely makes it feel better.
Yeah. Soloing this game is nope. It's no. It's not fun. Especially when you're just grinding public events by yourself. But it is what it is. So we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts, all the listeners. Comment, tell us on Facebook. How are you guys liking Destiny? Have you guys hit that burnout point? How's the grind treating you? Are you guys having the same trouble finding gear? Do hunters suck? Tell us what you guys think. And obviously you probably have noticed that RJ is not talking. He actually had to go. There was a pressing matter that he had to attend to. So, but with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close things up. There is a closing announcement that I would like to say. If anyone is interested in Mediocre Gamers t-shirts or playmats, let us know. We can get a list going and get some orders going for you guys. And right now we're just looking at doing it at cost. Maybe cost in a couple bucks for just the processing fee, but we're not trying to make money off these. We just want you guys to be able to represent for what we hope is your favorite podcasts. But let us know. It's definitely no trouble. So, but as always, thanks for listening. You can listen to our previous episodes on mediocregamers.com and on iTunes and Google Play. You can check us out on Facebook and Twitter at 2mediocregamers, and you can jump on Discord and chat with us, play some games with us, discord.mediocregamers.com. And you can check out our YouTube channel. We've got links on our Facebook page and on mediocregamers.com. Well, I think that's it. So, closing it out, I'm Caleb.
I'm Crimson.
And until next time, you guys should get out there and play some games.